Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. Today we're talking about the game Maracaibo. Maracaibo is a strategy game, came out in 2019. It's from Alexander Pfister. This is a lot going on in this game, so this is going to be a video. We're going to try to cover as much as we can in this. You know what? It's tough to cover this by yourself, so let me do this. Let me give my friend Dave a call. He's got a new video channel up on YouTube going on called Tabletop Videos. I'd love to collaborate with him. Let's see if he was willing to collaborate. Let me give him a call real quick.
It's a game that... Oh, sorry. Very embarrassing. Hold on a second. Hello?
Hey, Dave, how's it going? This is Mike.
Oh, hey, Mike.
From Gaming Party.
It's Mike from Gaming Party.
I just said that. I'm doing a video...
Yeah, I was about to do a review of Maracaibo. You familiar with the game?
I am familiar with the game, yes.
Oh, yeah? You're doing a review too, huh?
Yeah. How did you know?
Yeah, it's pretty massive.
Yes, it's a big game.
That's what she said.
Really, dude? Yes, I know.
Okay, not really.
Anyway, why don't we work together?
Oh, you wanna do it together?
That would be great. Let's do that.
Yeah, that'd be great. I mean, this thing is, yeah. All right, so I'll do part of it, you do part of it. We'll just kind of mash them together.
That is exactly my idea.
Okay, sounds great. Yeah.
Okay.
Cool. Talk to you later. Thanks.
Bye.
Bye. Welcome to Maracaibo. The object of the game is to win, and you win by having the most points at the end of the game. Maracaibo was designed by Alexander Pfister and is published by Capstone Games. Starting in Havana, you'll sail around the map performing actions at each stop, and there are all kinds of actions you can do. You can play cards, you can upgrade your ship, send out crew members, fight for different countries, deliver goods, complete quests, and explore the jungles of the Caribbean. During each round, players will sail around the board and stop at locations to perform actions until one player reaches the last space on the game board, triggering the end of the round. Between rounds, you have an interim scoring and income round where you gain money and points and set up for the next round. After the fourth and final round, you do a final scoring round, and whoever has the most points wins the game. Okay, there's a fair amount of setup in the game, which is explained fantastically in the rulebook, so we're not going to go into all the nitty-gritty details of the setup here. But in a nutshell, after placing the board, you'll place the combat tokens, quest and city tiles, and ownership cubes on the board. Speaking of the board, let's take a quick look at the main areas of the board so you know kind of what we're talking about here. Around the outside of the game, just like most games, you'll see a victory point track. At the top of the board, there are spots for 4 prestige buildings, which are essentially ways to score points at the end of the game. There's also 2 income tracks, one for doubloons and one for victory points, and these indicate how much of each of these you're going to receive between the rounds. Next to the income track is the influence track, and this represents the 3 different countries you can fight for. You've got France in the blue corner, Spain has the red cubes, and England has white. You can gain a lot of points from these in-game points, gaining influence with the various nations. Below that is the main board where you're going to be sailing from location to location and performing actions. Each round is going to end when someone sails into the last spot of that area. Finally, on the bottom of the board is the exploration area where you can gain even more benefits by sending your worker along his merry way on that track. Each player is going to receive all the little wooden bits and pieces of their color and place them wherever they need to go, and then you're almost ready to begin. But first, let's talk about your personal ship board. There are 12 little upgrade spots on this shipboard that are indicated by these little circles. You're going to place 2 little upgrade tokens on each of them, and whenever both tokens on a spot are removed, you gain that upgrade. For example, if you remove both tokens off of this spot, you'll immediately get 5 doubloons, and this spot will increase your hand size from 4 to 6. In addition to the upgrades, there are spots at the bottom to keep all the quests that you complete, and 3 spots at the top for storing cards to purchase later. At the top of the board, there's also a tracker for your combat points, and Mike is going to tell you what those little things are for in a little bit. Now let's talk about the cards. The cards are truly the heart of this game, so I really want to dig into them a little bit. On the top left, you're going to see the cost of the card, and this will almost always have a money cost, and sometimes it'll have an additional cost or requirement as well. For example, this expedition card costs 13 doubloons and 2 workers. Right below the cost, most cards have a point symbol, which shows how many victory points a card is worth at the end of the game. Directly below that, you're going to see 2 icons. The top one shows a trade good, either tobacco, corn, or sugar, and the bottom one shows an object, either a spyglass, a book, a map, or herbs. Finally, at the bottom of the card, you'll see the effect of the card. The background colors indicate what type of effect it has. Anything with a tan background is an immediate one-time effect. For example, if you play this major harbor, you immediately gain this anchor synergy token. Anything with a green background increases your income for either money or victory points. Some of these show a synergy token, which means that you only gain the increase if you have that token. Any card with a red background are permanent effects that give you extra things you can do during your turn. This Historian lets you trade in 2 books for 3 doubloons and 3 points as a main action. Finally, anything with a blue background are worker actions requiring you to place a worker on a location on the board, and if your ship stops there, you can perform that action. As an example, when you play this shipbuilder, you'll place a worker from your ship to the main location on the board that matches that number. Later on, if you stop there with your ship, you can perform the action of that assistant. This guy gives you 3 points, and then you can move 1 to 3 spaces and perform another action. So how do you play the game? Well, on your turn, you'll move your ship and take actions for the location you stopped at. At the end of your actions, you're going to fill your hand back up to 4 cards. On your turn, you can move your ship anywhere from 1 to 7 spaces. Each space on the board is designated with a number in a circle. You can only move forward in the direction of the arrows, not backwards, and you must move at least 1 space. If there are multiple arrows away from the spot you're currently in, you can choose which path you want to pursue. Multiple ships can be at the same location, and there's no battling in between ships. Sorry. Once you move your ship, you then get to perform an action of that location. The main action you perform depends on whether you stop at a city or a village. Cities have the big circles, and villages are the smaller circles. So let's look at a city. Each city has a market on the left side and an action that you can perform on the right side. You have the option of delivering a good to the city market. If there's an empty space there, you can check to see if you have the good that they're looking for. If you have the good, you can discard that card to move an upgrade token from your ship to the city tile covering up that good. Then you perform the city's action. The action you perform depends on which city you stop at. For example, in Santiago, you can gain a worker and perform a village action. In Maracaibo, you can perform a battle action. There are a lot of other actions that are randomly put on the board at the beginning of the game as well. Things that give you combat points or doubloons or influence with the different nations, just to name a few. Now let's talk about the villages, which are the small circles. Depending on how many spaces you travel to get to a village, you can take 1, 2, or 3 village actions. The first 2 actions that you can do are money related, so you can either gain a single doubloon or discard your hand to gain 2 doubloons. But the action you're probably going to be the most interested in is buying a card. Now, when I say buying a card, that sounds a little bit misleading because when I hear that, I think I'm gaining a card to my hand, and that's not the case at all. Instead of buying, I like to think of this action as paying for a card to put it into play. Now, instead of doing one of those village actions, you can also complete a quest or activate one of your workers that you previously placed. Finally, there are 2 free actions you can perform at any time during your turn. First, you can move a card from your hand to your ship area. Now, here's the catch though. If you do that, you can no longer use those cards for goods or objects to complete quests or do trades. Secondly, you can fulfill a career goal. At the beginning of the game, you're going to receive 2 career cards that you can put workers on. Each card has 3 objectives. Completing any of these goals reward you with an additional worker to put on your ship. If you complete all 3, you can flip the card over and receive an additional bonus. Now I'm going to pass it over to Mike so he can tell you all about combat and exploration. Mike?
Are you ready to go to battle? Well, kind of. You see, there's combat in the game, so to speak. So when you land on a space with this symbol, or complete a quest with that same symbol, as a reward, you can perform combat. But explaining it like combat makes it confusing. Think of it as going shopping. You get combat points that you spend, and you spend those points on increasing influence in one country or placing cubes from that country on the map. First, flip over a combat card. You'll see there are 3 countries on that combat card, and the combat points are next to each one of those countries. Some of the cards have a bonus or penalty at the top, which you can apply to different countries based on the country with the most or the least cubes on the map. There can also be bonuses or penalties next to country flags. So now you decide which country you want to side with. You can pick only one, and if you can't pay the penalty, you can't choose that country. So for example, if it costs 2 doubloons and you don't have 2 doubloons, you can't side with that country. You'll need to pick a different one. Once you've chosen a country to side with, then you get to spend those combat points. Then you're going to spend those combat points from the combat card, plus any combat points you want from your ship. You can also spend your little dudes to increase the combat. I guess you're firing them out of a cannon? And now it's time to go shopping, or combating. Look at the options in the top left of your player board and choose the actions you want to do, or buy. You can only choose each option once. The first is to increase your influence with the country you selected. Remember, you can only choose one country. You can only choose each option once. The first is to increase your influence with the country you selected. Remember, you can only choose one country, and the one you choose on the combat card is the one you must increase your influence in. You can spend 2 combat points to increase your influence by 1, or you can spend 5 to increase by 2. Remember, you can only do these actions once per combat, so you can't spend 2 combat points twice to increase your influence twice. You must spend the 5 if you want to increase it by 2. The other action you can do is increase your influence and put a cube on the map. Yes, the juicy little cubes. This is where in-game scoring comes into play. More on that in a minute. Let's finish the combat first. You can spend 4 action points to increase your influence by 1 in a country and place a cube from that country onto the map. This cube comes from the row of cubes at the top of the map. You place the cube on one of the hexagon spaces on the map with a bonus flag showing next to it, and you immediately get the bonus that's showing on that flag. If there is already a cube on the flag that you would like to claim, then you'll need to spend 6 combat points instead of 4. And you'll bump off that cube, and you'll get the bonuses then. Spending these 6 combat points allows you to remove the country cube from the map and replace it with a cube from the country you chose to side with. There is a third option you will get after you uncover this upgrade on your player board. Remember, you have to take off the little brown discs. There's 2 of them there. Once you have those off, you've unlocked this new option. This new option lets you spend 2 combat points, or 5 if there's a cube you need to kick off, to choose a village, not a city, a village, to place a marker from the nation you're fighting for onto the location and gain 1 influence with that nation. But wait, there's more! You also get 3 doubloons for each assistant you have in the location, and 1 doubloon for each assistant the other players have in that location. So why do you care about these cubes to the map? Well, they uncover victory points used in in-game scoring. The first cube uncovers 1 point. After that, each cube uncovers half a victory point. So you'll need to remove 2 cubes before that point is counted at the end of the game. Then you'll multiply the points showing by the highest multiplier you have moved your influence marker over in that country. And that is pretty much how combat works. It doesn't feel like combat. So when I teach my friends how to play, I just tell them to think of the combat points as a kind of currency. And you're spending it to move up on the influence track and uncover victory points for in-game scoring. Now it's time to fulfill a quest. This is another part of the game that doesn't really feel like what it's called. You're simply spending something to get something in return. So it's more of a transaction than a quest. When you land on a spot on the board with one of these tiles, you have the option to fulfill the quest. Spend what is shown on the top of the card by discarding cards that have that symbol, and you receive the reward shown at the bottom. Sometimes you'll have to spend combat to get those requests also, and other things too, like assistance. Anyway, you spend the stuff at the top to get the stuff at the bottom. You get the picture. If you complete the quest, place it on the bottom of your player board. Once you have 4 quests completed, you score 3 points. Each quest after that scores 2 points, and you just pile them up here. The backs of the quest tiles have this cool artwork. It's just there to look cool on your ship. Let's go exploring! When you land on a space with this symbol, or you complete a quest with that symbol on it, a little globe, you get that as a reward. You can go exploring. This is where your larger meeple will tromp through the jungle, finding all sorts of treasure. Move your figure up the number shown on the globe, or up to that number, and collect the reward on that space. If you wish, you can move less spaces. If you run into an opponent on the path, you just skip over that spot as if it didn't exist. So you don't count the spot, you move on to other people. You just move past those. If your explorer crosses this red line, you immediately gain 3 influence with a nation of your choice. You cannot split the influence across nations. Move your influence marker on the corresponding influence track 3 spaces to the right. The first player to cross the blue and or green line immediately score 4 victory points. All other players whose explorers cross these barriers later score 2 victory points. So it pays to be fast on the explorer track. Once your explorer reaches the end of the explorer track, it remains there for the rest of the game. You can immediately perform a village action. More than one explorer may be on the last space of the track. The first explorer to reach this space scores 10 victory points. The second scores 8, the third scores 6, and the fourth scores 4. If a later action allows you to move your explorer, you don't go anywhere. You don't get anything, you get nothing. So probably a good idea to choose a different action. All right, now it's time for the review part of this. So let's jump right into it. This is a strategy game, a lot going on. So let's talk about theme first. So the theme of the game, going around the Caribbean, you're aligning with England, France, or Spain. This could be a controversial theme because of what was going on at that time. I'm not gonna go deep into that in this video, but just if you don't like that type of theme and that type of stuff, probably not the game for you. Does it really feel like you're going on the Caribbean doing these quests? No, it does not feel like I'm doing that. It feels like I am playing cards. It feels like I'm trying to complete quests by basically having the goods I need or having the items I need to complete the quest or go to combat or whatnot. So it's more of a hand management, card management game. You've got to make sure you have the cards to do the things you want on the board, but you also want to buy those cards to put them next to your board so you have that power going forward. So there's a lot going on between there. But it doesn't feel like I'm sailing a ship around the sea. It feels like I'm playing a Euro game that's more mathy than anything else. Not too mathy. It's not like Power Grid or something like that, but there's definitely a lot of thought process that goes into figuring out when you're going to play certain cards, what you're going to use those cards for, and sometimes just discarding those cards because you want the coins because they're not any good right now, and later on those cards will come back up. I did find you did cycle through the deck quite a bit. And so you'll go through it at least once in the game, and maybe even a second time, depending on how many people are discarding cards and pulling more cards. So if a card gets discarded, you might still see that card later on because one, there's multiple copies of the cards in the game, most of them, and then two, you'll go through the deck. So theme of the game, it's okay. It's nothing. It's nothing to write home about, but it's okay. All right, options. How many options do you have on your turn? Too many? Not enough? You have a ton. You can move 1 to 7 spaces, which is a lot in a game where there's only about 24 spaces around the board. So you can really jump almost a third of the way around the board right at the beginning of the game. I would not recommend that. You're going to want to stop and try to complete quests and go to cities and go to villages. But you have 7 different places you can go to on your turn. And just because someone else has their ship there doesn't mean you're blocked, which is great. But if someone has gone somewhere and delivered, say, tobacco or sugar to a spot, and there was only one spot there, they took that from you. Now it's gone, you can't go deliver the good, but you can still do the other action. So you still have tons of options in this game. And if someone takes one spot, they take the delivery or they take the quest, great, move on to the next one. But you've got to make sure you have the cards for that. So managing your hand and looking ahead on the board, seeing that, hey, we're just now starting, I'm in Havana. But on spot 17, there's a quest that needs 2 spyglasses. I need to make sure I have those. So when I'm drawing cards, if I see a spyglass, I didn't pay that extra coin, so I make sure I have that spyglass in my hand so I can use it when I get around to that quest. Even though that may be 4 or 5 turns away before I get there, at least I'm planning for that. So it's very important to plan ahead and be ready for that. But someone could jump ahead and take that from you. Generally speaking though, if someone jumps way too far ahead, they've missed a lot of actions they could have done. They're going to leave something behind for you. Same thing with you. If you jump way far ahead, you're going to leave things behind for other people to do. So you have a ton of options. I never felt like I was stuck. I never felt like, wow, I don't have, what can I do this turn? I don't have anything to do. I never felt stuck. I always felt like I had something to do. Maybe it wasn't what I wanted to do, but I felt like I had something I could do and accomplish in the game. The only real take that or someone taking something from you is if someone goes and takes a quest or delivers a good that you really wanted to deliver. Other than that, you pretty much have the pick of what you want. But you got to plan ahead. You got to have the cards to deliver those goods or to go to those quests. Let's talk about the time of this game. So on the box it says 30 minutes per player. No, this is not 30 minutes per player. You're looking at least 45 minutes per player minimum. And when you first start playing it, you're looking at an hour per player. We played this game 4-player, we played it 2-player, we played it 3-player. The last time, we played it 5 times now, and the last time we played it with 2 players, it was way more than 30 minutes per player still. Even though we knew what we were doing, we played the game multiple times at this point, we had the rules down pat, we didn't have to refer back to the rule book hardly at all, and we still took a while because you have tons of options on your turn and you're just trying to look at your cards and figure out what to do on your turn. You can plan ahead and say, okay, I'm going to definitely do this, but if someone takes that spot, especially in a 4-player game, if 3 people are going before you and they take the 3 things that you really wanted to do, you got to go with your 4th option. So you really need to know what that 4th option is. If not, it's going to take a while for you to figure out what you want to do on your turn. So the game can drag on a little bit. That being said though, because there's so many options, there's so much to look at on the board, even though there was a lot of downtime between turns, I was still thinking most of the time during that, saying, okay, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do this, I'm going to take this card, we'll hope that card's still available when it gets to my turn. Hope it's not, now what do I do? And I just continued looking around, trying to figure out what to do on my turn. And when I got to my turn, if my options were still there from when I first started thinking about it, great. If they weren't, then I had to change my strategy. That's okay. That makes a great game in my opinion. And so I had tons of options, but just be prepared. You're going to have some downtime between turns, but there's a lot to think about between that time. The one big negative thing, and this is not a big negative thing, the one negative thing I would really point out is those little brown discs that you have on your ship, they get knocked over like crazy. Every time you move something, bump something, put a quest down, they just fall over. I'm like, oh, it's a pain. So we just started putting them next to each other. There's acrylic overlays you can buy, I think on Etsy, that you can put on there if you wanted to. I didn't do that. I will recommend though, getting an insert for this game. The setup time has been cut in half, if not a 4th, because of the insert. I bought an insert off Etsy. It's a 3D printed one. Phenomenal. I love it because now at the beginning of the game, we just go, there's your pieces, there's your pieces, there's your pieces, and setup time is cut down like mad, and even the time to put it away. So if you don't have a nice insert, you're looking at a long setup time. You got to dump all these brown discs out, hand them all out. You've got to put everybody's player pieces on the boards. It takes a while to set this game, especially if you're playing with people who've never played before. Setting up the cards at the beginning, you can't really get around that. You're going to have to count out those 40 cards and shuffle them in and do the whole deck setup at the beginning. That doesn't take too long once you kind of got it memorized that it's 40 cards. So I wouldn't say the setup is that bad, but I love my 3D insert in this thing. So definitely highly recommend looking for something like that to make your game easier to set up and take down. One of the items that's kind of difficult in this game is teaching the game. It's not hard to teach, but some of the terms and some of the things that you do in the game, like combat. Combat's not really combat in this game. Combat is, like I said during the video, it's a transaction. You are spending something to get something. That's all you're doing. You're spending combat points. It's so hard also when you first start teaching, you're like, okay, you get these combat points on this card, and people immediately, instinctively, move the combat marker up on their ship. And you're like, no, that's not, you don't do that. It's just used for this just one turn, this one combat. It doesn't roll over. You can add combat from your ship to that number, but that number doesn't add to your ship. And people are confused about that. Well, what is it? Why would I not have these 2 numbers together? It's like, that's not the way it works. You have this number and you have that number. You can add the ones from your ship to it, but not the other way around. Also, which option am I going to pick? Am I going to pick, France, Spain, or England? And do I have the ability to do that because I need to pay 2 doubloons? Do I have that money? Which one's the bonus? And then that little bonus at the top where you get whoever's in first place and third place gets a bonus or a negative. You have to go and count on the board, see how many cubes are out there. And some cubes have been kicked off and they don't go back to the top row. So you can't just look at that top row and see which one's missing the most. You've got to actually count on the board and see how many cubes are missing to make sure you're giving them a bonus or not a bonus if they're in first or third place clearly. So that can be a little fiddly, but just teaching combat, teaching the quests, things like that. Just here's what you're spending this to get this. That's what I teach them. If I teach them that more like a transaction, they seem to understand it. So just a recommendation when you're teaching the game. So final thoughts on this. I really, really enjoyed this game. It is a brain burner. There's a lot going on. There's tons of options. Okay, let's step back. Not quite final thoughts. One last thing I will mention on the game that I don't mind, I actually enjoy. At the end of the game, I find myself min-maxing like crazy at the end of this game, especially in the last round. You're like, all right, I've only got this last round. I've got X number of dollars or doubloons. I've got these cards. Which one of these cards can I buy? Do I have enough money for? which one's going to give me the most victory points. This one will give me 11 victory points because of this, this, and this. This one will give me 12 victory points because of this, this, and this. And you can really figure out exactly what cards are going to give you the most victory points at the end. It's pretty easy to do. Early on in the game, it's not so much because you're not sure, how much England or France are going to go up on influence and things like that, or how many quest tiles you're going to have. So you don't really know at the beginning, but at that last round, or close to the last round, you can start really telling how much every single card, every single option is worth to you. If I do this quest, it's going to give me 3 victory points because it's my 4th one. So that's only 3 victory points. So I've got this card here I need to buy, and that's going to give me 11 victory points because of the X number of items I have over here. That gives you the ability to do the math and figure out where the advantage and disadvantage is of playing these cards and where the min-max is of points. But I don't see that happening as much at the beginning of the game, so it doesn't really slow down the game there, but I definitely see myself doing it at the end of the game, counting up what I want to play and figuring out the best strategy, squeezing out those last few victory points to try to squeak in the lead. So again, that's not a bad thing. I actually enjoy doing that in games, but if you don't like that, then that's probably not something you want to do. Okay, so now the real final thoughts. I really enjoy this game. I like it a lot. I really want to play this again several more times. You just have to be ready to sit down for 3 hours. With the setup time, takedown time, all that stuff, you're going to be minimum of 3 hours at 2 players. 4 players, more than that. If you've played it with someone, say 5-6 times, and they know the rules down pat, and they're paying attention to their turn, they're not getting up to get a snack, they're not looking at their phone, they're paying attention just to the game and nothing else, you might be able to get this down to 30 minutes per player. But that's just not realistic. People don't do that. People are always going to say hi to their friends as they're walking by. If you're at a cafe or something like that, you're not going to have them focused 100% on the game, and it's going to slow it down. So again, I have not seen this less than 45 minutes per player. So if you're okay with that, you're looking for a long game, a long strategy game that has tons of options, this is the game for you. If you're looking for a game that's super thematic, probably not the game for you. That being said though, do we recommend Maracaibo? Absolutely. It is a great strategy game. I definitely look forward to getting more and more plays out of this and getting it back to the table. The teach isn't that bad. It takes a while, but it's not that bad, except for the combat like I mentioned earlier. Great game, highly recommended. Maracaibo from Alexander Pfister. Thanks for watching, everyone. Hope you guys have enjoyed this video, and we will see you on the next one. By the way, I hope you guys like the background. We're trying to change it up, make it look a little more professional, a little nicer. So leave a comment if you like the background. Thumbs up, thumbs down. Give us a like or not like. Or, no, just give us a like. Dislikes. No dislikes. All right. Thanks. Take care, everyone.